Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, would you be shocked that Desmond Ridder played well this year?
And we'll just keep it simple. Bravo to the Bravos.
And last but not least, and for the culture, how much are you willing to pay to add a couple more inches?
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that from you in advance. ATL Day Ones is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up in about 6 minutes, we're going to talk about DeAndre Hunter. Should he stay or should he go? But first, we got to talk about Grady Jarrett, right? He was on Good Morning Football, which is probably one of my favorite shows to catch when I get a chance. I think it's a really good studio show, and I think they really do a good job of bringing in the player aspect of that thing. And he was on there, and they asked him about Desmond Ridder and whether or not they will be shocked. He will be shocked if Desmond Ridder plays well. They asked him about him stepping into that role and what he will be this year.
Man, time gonna tell, man. But it's a reason why we believe in Des. He's been a great leader for us in the time that he's been here. Going into his second year. But I mean, also just the physical skills it take to be a great quarterback in this league. And I'm excited to see him, take the reins and with this opportunity that he has. But, we believe in him wholeheartedly, and I think he's going to shock a lot of people, but it won't be a shock to us, man, or himself, because he's a guy who has super confidence in himself.
T?
No lies told. No lies told. And no, I would not be shocked. There's a reason that everyone and this is everyone, right? So when you're going up against your number ones, even if it's just voluntary OTAs, there are some things that you can see in certain people. We've said it for many players over time. We'll see, oh, wow, he's committed to blocking. And of course, I'm talking about the O-line in this example. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, okay, they're actually putting Bijan Robinson in the slot. Okay. So there are certain things that we see. You saw it at Flowery Branch, saw it at the Benz, and you've heard others talk about it. It's the leadership. So I'm going to go with the reason I believe it is because of the intangibles. Now, I agree with Grady, physically he's gifted and he's got a great arm or what have you. But I think it's the ability to command and to teach and to have your players be receptive to that. And for the leader, the undisputed leader of this entire team, really, Grady Jarrett, for him to talk about being excited to see what you're going to do in the leadership space. Yeah, no, I think that he's going to, like Grady said, he won't shock me, he won't shock Grady, and he certainly won't shock himself. I think he'll probably shock a lot of other people because I do still think that there is overarching an underestimation of the Falcons as a whole right down to QB1.
And I think that I don't think the level of shock is going to be where he's going to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns or anything like that. But I think given the type of system, that's not going to happen. He threw the ball 24 times last year on average, and the average is 33 in the NFL. So I think that number goes up just a little bit. I probably mean by 26 to 27.
27, yeah.
I think that's kind of the sweet spot for Arthur Smith because, at the end of the day, he want to run the rock. So that's what it is. So I think Arthur Smith will keep him around that number. He's really good at that as far as coming to game planning from week in and week out. So I think those are some of the things that is going to keep Desmond Ridder, under wraps, so to speak, because he's a guy that will take some chances. That's one thing I noticed about him. He trusts his arm a lot, and I think he's going to be willing to kind of stick it in there, especially when you're talking about getting the ball to Kyle Pitts, over the middle or those opposing defense. So I think that for me, I'm not going to be shocked because, like I said, given the game plan and what I know what Arthur Smith is trying to do, but I do feel like people will be shocked because there's literally no expectation for this guy. And literally, if you're keeping it all the way funky, there are really no expectations for all the quarterbacks in this division. Because, even though Derek Carr has put up some decent numbers out there in Las Vegas, but nobody. I don't feel like no one really, and I don't really trust Derek Carr like that. And I'm not even putting too much stock into what was going to be able to do as a quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Because hey, at the end of the day, that's a team that I really don't feel like it's going to be somebody to worry about. Obviously, it's a rivalry going down, but I just don't think they are the team to be that concerned about, especially when you have Dennis Allen as your head coach. But I think that Grady, I think you make a good point. They aren't going to be shocked, and that's good to hear from your leader of your team. Yeah. But I think overall, there's going to be something that Desmond Ridder does throughout this year that it's only going to take a couple plays, T. It's only going to take a couple plays, a couple throws to win a game, and then everybody's going to be on board like, oh, okay, what's going on down there in Atlanta?
Right. Yeah, and the other reason I'm not shocked is because he can't go anywhere but up. So, and I don't think that you get players like Drake London, and when you get Kyle Pitts back and you get Bijan Robinson just for a game manager, because you wouldn't be giving him weapons. You went out and you got some free agents for him as well at the tight end spot, at the wide receiver spot. So you're building around him, and you're giving him his most solid O-line, maybe the most solid O-line we've seen from the Falcons in Arthur Smith's entire tenure, maybe the last 5 years. So not just is it going to be about him, but it's all of the weapons and everything surrounding him that's going to allow him to show us that he can succeed and that he can play at this high level.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about what he actually is going to be able to do because of the surrounding pieces, right? Because the Falcons made a very big point of making sure that he has all the weapons that he needs in order to be successful in 2023. Now, speaking of being successful in the next season, how about that? We've been talking about the Hawks and trying to figure this thing out, T. And I think that now that John Collins is gone, that's that 4th spot that we talked about. The front court may look really different once the season starts in the fall. But when you think about DeAndre Hunter and what he has brought to the table, I know for me, I still don't know what he is quite exactly. So I think when you think about whether or not he's going to be on this roster, for me, do you feel like it's his time to go? And if so, is there a person that you have in mind that you probably would be willing to replace him with?
Yeah, the only one I can think of as far as not having a player option that might put you back on the current team, like a Josh Hart or your restricted free agent, if you will, and that's like a Batiste, right?
Yeah.
Is KJ Martin. Had a chance to see him up front. Of course, he's with the Rockets. And one of the things I like about him is that he's good off ball. He's good off ball. He can act, and he can actually move in transition, and he is good at defense. So that gives Quinn Snyder something to work with.
Yeah.
But he also has a 3-point shot that is a bit more consistent than what we've seen out of DeAndre Hunter, because that's the biggest thing. Their numbers aren't that different. About 13 points a game for KJ, about 6 rebounds a game, and about 32% shooting from 3. Numbers aren't that different, except that those numbers for KJ Martin represent consistency. With DeAndre Hunter, it's more like you might get a 29-point game one night and then a 9-point game the next.
Yeah.
So for me, I would. There's definitely some opportunity there. I think it's just a matter of who would Quinn Snyder think that has the best upside for what he's trying to do in the system he's trying to employ for the Hawks.
Yeah, KJ Martin intrigues me as well, because I think that that off-ball piece makes a lot of sense, because we don't need anybody that needs the rock in their hands to be able to create a own shot. The Hawks have enough of that team.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? DeJounte and Trey are still trying to figure that thing out, so we won't need to add any more to that equation as far as being able to handle the rock. And then that 3-point piece is huge for me as well.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you this. I probably know the answer to this, because there's another name that I came across that that was on the all defensive team, and you know where I'm going with this. I see you start shaking your head, so follow me here. At least till I ask the question. He's an unrestricted free agent. Averaged about 14 points last year. You know, year before that, he was at 18 points a game. You know what I'm saying? He shot about 33% from three last year. You know, what about Dillon Brooks?
What about him? I mean, he's unrestricted for a reason. Like, I mean, just what do you do with that? Like, I don't even know. Like, I really wish I could start somewhere, but I can't because I don't know. And you know, to be fair, he definitely is a really solid player who would bring something meaningful to the table. So I take nothing away from that piece. What concerns me is whether or not that's the kind of energy that's going to work for this team, because this team still has some chemistry challenges, we'll say, right? So
I think one of them is gone. You know, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Because John Collins is gone.
Yeah, because to be honest, he was the cheerleader of the team, if you will. But whether or not he was kind of the glue, I'm not sure that I would call him that. So that would be my biggest concern with Dillon Brooks. Like, where is his head? And on a night where, you know, his head ain't right or he's got something to say, how quickly can Quinn Snyder reel him in? Now, the good news is Quinn Snyder doesn't really have anybody else to reel in with this team, right? So that's the good thing. You'd only be dealing with one. It's not out of the question. It's just a matter of how do you get that Dillon Brooks to realize the reason you're no longer a Grizzly is because of this and this and this. And if you want to be a Hawk and remain a Hawk, at least for the duration of this season, here's what the expectations are going to be. And you know what, Jarvis, maybe that's as easy as putting some verbiage in a contract about behavior. Could be that simple. So yeah, I chuckle about it and say, what about him? Because I know that wouldn't be the easiest fit. I think KJ Martin would be the easier fit, but you would at least, if there's an opportunity, you would at least take a look at Dillon Brooks.
Yeah, you should. No doubt. And especially when you have a coach who can get into the minds of players and unlock some things that haven't necessarily come out, and maybe he can unlock some common sense, you know, and not try to be a WWE star. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, I like the answer, T. You had me scared for a little minute. I was like, come on, now the dude got a little talent.
No doubt about the talent. Yes, indeed. And if you can take, we always talk about having dogs and the fact that, okay, do the Hawks have a dog or not? He might be like a fake dog somewhat, because I don't think he's really as rough and tough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think on the outside he's on the inside he's but I think ultimately you can kind of reset that and remix that maybe, and he might be that dog that you need that we haven't really seen in a while.
Yeah, we definitely know that the Braves have some dogs. How about this? Alex Anthopoulos has done it again. But first, got to let you know that this episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It is the #1 sportsbook in America. Just like we talked about, baseball season is full effect, y'all. Like, I need y'all to like really, really listen to me right now. For all your new customers, they have the no sweat first bet up to $1,000. Yes, $1,000 in bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. And all you got to do is just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. And so don't miss your chance. Don't miss your chance to snag your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. LOCKEDON. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
If you're a betting person, you probably need to keep betting on the Braves because they are really, really delivering. 20-4 so far in the month of June with their most recent triumph over the Minnesota Twins. And not a bad team, a team that came to Truist Park over 500, a team that left Truist Park under 500. But that's what the Braves are doing, dismantling teams, winning 8 series in the month of June. And yet another one, a sweep. So 3-0 was the count last night or yesterday. And a lot of that was due to a guy who was on a plane to play a Minnesota team, but it was the AAA Minnesota team. So he was with AAA Gwinnett. He gets the call, hey, man, you're going to have to fly back to Atlanta. He flies back to Atlanta and then gives the Braves almost 5 innings of just 8 strikeouts, just amazing pitching. So first want to start with him because this is his first start of 2023 after spending time on the 60-day IL.
Mm-hmm.
So how important is it for the Braves to have seen him on his first start in the majors with them to have an outing like that?
It just goes back to, Brian Snitker and AA, right? Because when we talked about on this show, we talked about how Mike Soroka was the guy, and and Mark Bowman, was tweeting out saying, hey, more than likely he's going to be the guy. Even Jeff Schultz of the Athletic did the same thing. Like, we were like, okay, multiple guys are reporting that Michael Soroka might be the guy, but
yes.
Like, it also then came out, Snitker kind of gave a little insight as to why they brought Kolby Allard in, because they like the matchup, right? It's a left-handed pitcher. Michael Soroka's a right-hander, a righty. They like the matchup. And guess what? He end up proving them right. Like, you're talking about to the tune of 8 strikeouts, only 1 walk. And those are some of the things that you kind of take a look at, and even talked about how, maybe you should have kept them in the game. We mentioned it just a little bit yesterday, but like, I'm at the point now where I'm not going to question those guys when they make certain decisions. I know that was the easy thing to do early on in Snitker's tenure. But now I'm at a point where I actually trust this guy when it comes to making those necessary decisions. And it definitely looked like the right one. And being that Michael Soroka is more like going to hit the mound on Friday, I'm all for that. Let's see Michael Soroka. He's been doing well in AAA ever since he got sent down. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and the bullpen helped from an efficiency standpoint. Yes. So they didn't, tire themselves out, if you will. It's a day game, right? So really you've got a day and a half to reset for a big showdown with the Marlins, as they are just 6.5 games back of the Braves in the NL East. So I think, like you said, he was playing a chess game of saying, hey, I know what's going to work in this final game against the Twins. And I also know what I have to face this weekend. So I'm thinking ahead. For him, he was probably looking at it almost like it was a 4-game series, meaning the Twins kind of tacked on to the Marlins, if you will. But it's interesting because the piece last night, and we talk about this all the time too. If you take Ronald Acuna Jr. out of the equation, Jarvis, you could literally make the case for anybody else being an MVP at any time. Matt Olson is that second guy who's the MVP right now. It was Austin Riley at a point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you can plug and play Sean Murphy, you can plug and play Marcell Ozuna, what he's done at the plate, you can plug and play. And the reason I mention that is this, because when you start adding those pieces, right, and you look at it holistically, you get a Kolby Allard to give you what you need. And right there lurking in July would be Max Fried and Kyle Wright. And hopefully Michael Soroka shows up big tomorrow. That's how you have a near historic month. 20-4 is where they are now. If they happen to finish 21-4 and get that first game against the Marlins, here's what they would be. The only team in Major League history to win 20-plus games, hit 55-plus home runs, and average 300 in a single month. Now, the Braves had a 14-year run back in the day. Yeah, you were here to see it front and center. I was watching it from a distance. But at the midpoint of the season, is this the best team you have ever seen the Braves literally put out there night after night?
Yeah, embracing prisoner of the moment. When almost, that's kind of how I feel when it comes to baseball, because there are so many games. Like, I almost have to. For me, I have to live in the moment, right? Living in the moment, yes. To answer your question, yes. Like, this lineup, like from top to literally 1 through 9, adding in the DH piece, right? Yes. Because we didn't have that during that run back in the 90s with the Atlanta Braves. So pitchers had the bat. You know what I'm saying? You had guys like Tom Glavine who embraced that and loved to actually get up to the plate and actually try to do some things with that bat in his hands. But when you think about now, with the way Marcell Ozuna is swinging the bat, like you mentioned, Matt Olson up here in conversations with Shohei Ohtani, he's right on his heels, or he's right there, or he's tied at the top of the major leagues with home runs. So those are some of the things that I look at and say, you know what? Yeah, you have to, because this team is loaded. Then Sean Murphy, who was brought in for defensive purposes, but he's been a hell of a guy at the plate as well. Yes. And then you got the MVP candidate and Ronald Acuna. Then let's go ahead and talk about Michael Harris II as well, who's been tearing the cover off the ball. The dude is in conversation with Ted Williams. Like we talked about that yesterday. Go check that episode out if you missed it. But I think those are some of the things that I have to take into consideration and say, you know what? I haven't seen a lineup like this 1 through 9 because, like, the DH that got added in a couple of years ago. So looking up and down this roster, like, this is murderer's row, T. Like, literally, there are no breaks going up and down this doggone lineup for sure.
It's not. And that's why you can see them having 76 games out of 80 where they literally had a run in the first inning because they punish you early. Crazy. And it is crazy because when you put the Marlins and Mets together, 159 games combined, guess how many runs they had in the first innings? 47. So look at the margin, the difference in the team that technically is on your heels at 6.5 games back. But when I think about that, I say to myself too, this team has always prided itself on defense, right?
Right.
And with the pitching rotation and really the pitching staff overall, bullpen included, it really seems like they figured it out. Like even if they have an off night or one has an off night, somebody's right there to say, hey, you can pull him from the game, put me in, and I'll close this inning out, or I'll close out this game. And then, of course,
no matter
you
the situation too.
I
just want to add real quick. No matter the situation too, because the Twins went 0 for 23 and with runners in scoring position. So it's just like
that's how you
started rotation, bullpen. What don't matter? Like whoever's on the mound, they were getting the job done.
Exactly. That's how you get a 4-hit game. Yes. That's exactly how you get a 4-hit game. Exactly. So you really like them as a collective. And I say all of those things because number one, I don't really see a weakness. Whereas a month ago, I might have told you I did see a weakness and thought that maybe Alex Anthopoulos was going to go and do something big, maybe towards the trade deadline for the bullpen. But is there really a weakness, like one that you should be concerned about, or are even the weaknesses easy fixes?
Wow. That is a good question. Obviously, the first thing to come to mind, Max Fried, Kyle Wright, right? Like you mentioned earlier, Max Fried is set to come back in July sometime, and Kyle Wright a little bit further back than that in August. So some of that's my concern, but I don't feel like that's a weakness because, hey, they've been figuring it out, right? Whatever strong Band-Aid, super strong Band-Aid that you could think of, that's what the Braves have been running out there, to be, especially in the month of June. Like with to the tune of being 20-4 in this month and trying to break a major league record or at least tie a major league record for wins in the month. So I can't sit up here and say that there's a weakness because the way they're swinging the bat, the way their bullpen is actually coming through for them, and whoever out on the mound, whether it be Spencer Strider or Bryce Elder and all those guys, like, I can't sit up here and say, you know what? Yeah, they probably need to go out and go get another guy, or Alex Anthopoulos need to get on the phone. Like, I was like that in the beginning of the year, but now I'm cool. Like, I'm cool. I'm cool with whoever they put out there because at the end of the day, if their pitchers don't get it done, those bats, more than likely, especially as hot as it is outside, that's as hot as those bats have been as of late.
And this is where you start being nitpicky, right? Because the only weakness that I would say, and again, nitpickiness, is defense. They had 4 errors in game 2 against the Twins, but that's also uncharacteristic of them. So again, that's just nitpicking. And to me, that's something that they easily course correct because Michael Harris II had a double play last night. And then there was a 4-6-1 play that was so beautiful between Ozzie Albies and Orlando Arcia after they'd made those errors in that game. So they cleaned it up, fixed it quickly. But again, that's just nitpicking because I also believe anything that you can find that's a little bit of a disconnect for them is something that is an easy fix. So everydayers, what say you? I mean, you guys, especially those of you who are born and raised here, or like me, you're a transplant, but you've been a Braves fan all your life. Do you guys think that this, at this midpoint, is the best Braves team that has been? The best Brave teams that they've tried it out there? Let us know. Of course, check us out on YouTube, and that is where you can make your comments about the Braves, or if you want to comment about the Falcons and Grady Jarrett's thoughts on Desmond Ridder, do that too. And of course, if you're driving down the road, make sure you download this podcast before you get on the road so you can listen to us and have a nice, beautiful, sunny day going down these streets of Atlanta.
But this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about. Because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. You know, I asked a weird question to start the show, and we're going to go ahead and get into actually what that is, right? Like, you know, as a man, you know, I've been tall all my life, so I don't know what it is to be a short man. I have no clue whatsoever. I'm 6'5", right? But there's a man that was 5'5", a foot shorter than me. His name is Denzel Siggers. He decided to say, you know what? I'm tired of being short. I'm tired of being turned down by women. He was 5'5", T. The man went out and cut the check for $80K. Yep, I said it. $80,000. Yeah, I gotta say it like that. $80,000, T. So he can be 6 feet tall. And from what my understanding is, T, like, he's getting some early returns on his investment.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be working for him. And you know what? Listen, I have to tell the truth. Like you, I've been tall my entire life, with the exception of, I think, second grade. I was actually the shortest little dumpy girl in second grade, and that was it. So if you've been tall, you're on the other side. So I get it, because there are a lot of times where I'll see a guy, he's like 6'2", and his significant other is like 5'6", and I'm going, for real? Like, really? So, I mean, yeah, so tall girl problems. Many days I have wished not to be this tall, because it is tough in these streets when you're this tall as a female. But as a man, I can imagine it must be difficult as well, because if you're like most women, they're not even looking your way. Like, they don't even see you, because women see that height as sort of like low-key protection, for lack of a better term. That's what it represents to most women. So, I mean, I don't think I would pay $80,000 if somebody came and said, hey, T, you could be 5'7" or 5'6" instead of 5'11". I don't think I would take it, but I understand. Yeah, my heart goes out to you.
Since we're keeping the funky on the show, T, can I tell you something? You know, my wife, you know, she's 5'7", 5'8" You know what I'm saying? Like, she's the tallest woman I ever dated, ever. Like, I used to, you know, 4'11", 5'2", 5'3". Yeah, I used to partake, you know? And, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. I think because I saw my grandfather, you know, he was 6'6". You know, my grandmother, you know, she was 5'1", 5'2". So, you know, that's probably what I saw. I just probably saw that, like, oh yeah, I like that. You know what I'm saying? No, subconsciously, and went down that road. But yeah, like, but $80,000 though, that's a lot of bread. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of money. Yeah. But yeah, Denzel, man, I'm glad it's working for you. You know, he's saying he's been getting a lot more attention, and women have changed how they view him. So hey, if that's your route you want to go in life, man, drop that $80K, man. Go ahead and do what you got to do. But
I hope you don't have any health complications because of it down the road, because, you know, getting that type of surgery offshore, you don't know what might happen.
You don't know what might happen. We know what's going to happen at Tennessee State, T. How about this?
Yes.
They have a hockey team about to get ready to come on board in 2024. They're going to start off with the club as a club team first initially, and then eventually, hopefully, work their way into the Division I level, playing on Division I level with a hockey team as an official team. So how about that? First HBCU ever to have a hockey team, T? What is going on out here?
Man, I really like that. When I saw that, I got so excited, because the other piece of that is this. The Nashville Predators are a good team. They are a good franchise. So if you're going to partner with a franchise, that's one to partner with, right? Mm-hmm. And the partnership didn't just happen yesterday, where it's like, oh yeah, you know, we want a hockey team and we want you to be our partners. The Predators have been supportive of Tennessee State since Ben. And that's what I love about the story, because I don't want it to be a situation where it's just kind of a flash in the pan, because like when that happens, that just kind of minimizes the effect for the school. But when you get them another team, that could mean extra dollars and just it's really just evolving that campus. And potentially, if it works out well, it could happen at other HBCUs, just like the underwriting that Steph Curry did for the golf team at Howard. So yeah. So the hope is that you continue to evolve, but I love it because that's a niche sport. And I know that there was a time where hockey wasn't very friendly to people of color.
Indeed.
And they are truly trying genuinely to change the narrative. So that's the other piece that I like. To me, this is part of the NHL trying to change the narrative.
Yeah, and you appreciate that because a lot of times people can talk a good game when you're talking about changing a narrative when it comes to people of color or whatever minority may be involved in the particular situation. So the fact that they're actually putting, like literally foots to the ground and conversations to action, that's what you need, and that's what I'm proud that Tennessee State has been able to be the benefit of that. But yeah, so yeah. I think that's something we hope. Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. We'll keep our eye on it, but we also hope that we will see the Braves get down to it tomorrow. We'll preview that big matchup against the Marlins, and of course, if there's any other news, because you guys know this is official free agency eve. The conversations can start really happening tomorrow night. So if we hear any word, we're going to react to it. Don't forget to check us out each and every day because, hey, we want to see what your reaction is to the word as well if the Hawks make some moves. You can do that by putting a comment in the chat on YouTube. And don't forget, everydayers, don't forget to download us wherever you get your podcasts.
And last but not least, if you don't do anything else with your life, make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.